Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome. My name is Magalie, and I'm going to be your host today. So, this session is brought to you by Seed Wellness. And I run two local teams for Seed Wellness in our community. One is based in Berkhamsted, and the other one is based in Chesham and Amersham. So, Seed Wellness is a connected web of health practitioners, and we work together in a very special way. Instead of working alone, we formed local teams in our towns across Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, Hertfordshire, and also London now. And each team is its own small community of different experts. We have, for instance, acupuncturists, nutritionists, breathwork, herbalists, bodywork therapists, sound healers, and many, many more. And we all collaborate closely. This allows us to support every part of your health journey, your body, your emotions, and your overall well-being, together and in one place. Okay, if you're here today, it's likely because you felt that familiar friction, the burst of motivation in January, the new routines, and the fresh intentions, and possibly followed by that slow fade as February and March are now rolling in. You're not alone. In fact, research shows that by the second week of February, over 80% of New Year's resolutions have already been abandoned. And it's not a personal failing, it's a design flaw. So today's webinar, Building Floors, Not Ceiling, a Sustainable Approach to Lasting Change, isn't about adding more rules or restrictive plans. It's about understanding why we fall off and building a solid, compassionate foundation, a floor that can support sustainable well-being. So why do we set this January resolution might be the first question. Often, it's a cultural reset button. We use sheer willpower, forcing our way through restrictive diets or punishing exercise routines. But willpower is not an infinite resource. It is like a battery that drains. And when it's gone, we crash. The real roots of habit change aren't found in restriction, but in support, satisfaction, and subconscious rewiring. So we fall off because, firstly, the approach is too harsh, it's punitive, it's not nourishing. Secondly, it only addresses the surface behavior, ignoring the emotional need and the habits fulfills. And thirdly, the nervous system feels threatened. Changes, even good changes, can trigger our limbic system, our survival brain, into stress, pulling us back to familiar safety. So true change happens when we work with our biology and our nervous system. So that's why we've gathered this incredible panel today with a beautiful team that I will introduce in a little bit. And we will look at habit sustainability from 4 different angles: the body, through nutrition, the breath and nervous system regulation, the mind and its subconscious patterns, and the practical logistics of integrating change, and especially for parents. So I'm very glad to introduce you to our beautiful team, and I'm going to hand the mic to Samantha. And if you would like to say who you are, where you're based, and what is your therapy, that would be amazing.
Thank you, Magalie. That was a lovely introduction. Hi, everybody. My name is Sammy, and I have a business called Natural Nutrition. So, as with the name, you can probably guess that I'm the nutritionist in the group. And I basically combine science, psychology, and spirituality in my offering. So, I'm very much a holistic practitioner. The science side of what I do is very much around healing gut problems, looking at improving gut health, and also balancing hormones and metabolism. And then the psychology side of what I do is around intuitive eating and helping to coach people to relearn to trust their body signals again. and develop their intuition. And then the spirituality side, I'm also a yoga teacher and a sound healer, and I do various other practices. So I like to bring in ethos of things like self-love, self-care, and use meditation and visualization practices in helping people to achieve their optimal health goals. So if you're looking for something that's holistic, then I'm your person.
Thank you so much, Sammy. That was brilliant. Samreen, love to hear from you.
Thank you. And I've been on the receiving end of Samantha's sound, and it's beautiful. So I can testify. I'm Samreen. I'm a breathwork practitioner, but actually, for over the last 25 years, I've also been an integrative coach. So I've worked as an executive coach, as a leadership coach. And I use the word integration because I also do quite a lot of holistic work. I work with the mind, I work with the body, I work spiritually. And I help people to really try to integrate all of those things as they try to change, as they try to evolve. Most of the people I work with don't lack discipline. And in fact, most of them try very, very hard. But what they're missing is not willpower, discipline, or effort. It's usually a nervous system that is just not feeling safe enough or regulated enough to address the things in the way of what the change might take into account. And my work sits at this intersection where the breath actually feels like a real portal opener. So I have a lot of trauma informed experience, both from life, but also through my research and my work. And I think the breath is probably the most powerful tool over the last 5 to 10 years that I've found that works bottom up. It speaks directly to our body, to our limbic system, and it helps us find that sense of safety and familiarity so that we can change. And so if you are interested in using the breath or any other somatic practice to find that nervous system regulation, reach out.
Thank you so much, Samreen. I still need to try one of your breathwork, actually. Can't wait. Carolina?
Hello, can you see me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Magalie. I'm Carolina Taylor. I'm the founder of Carolina Taylor Coaching. I offer parenting and life coaching services. I work directly with parents of children from early years to teenagers. I support them, help them with the daily challenges in parenthood, like tantrums, meltdowns, the back talking, the not listening. And we work as a team, understanding what's happening with your child and also with yourself, and understanding the nervous systems, the emotions, and supporting them to set up boundaries with respect and love. I also apply practical tools for their specific family dynamic. The idea is to create a closer relationship, better communication, and a calmer family life. I also support parents in terms of personal goals, could be career ambitions or health goals. And family sometimes could be a factor in this when they're trying to achieve this goal. So I support parents as well in this type of matter. So I'm based in Amersham, but I work remotely. So I do my sessions online, and sometimes there's some face-to-face time as well. So this is me.
Thank you so much, Carolina. Beautiful work. So yes, just a little bit about myself. I am a medical herbalist and I support patients in so many different ways, from little acute infections to chronic conditions such as autoimmune or hormones issue, both for men and women. And I mean, the list could go on and on, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail. I'm based in Great Missenden, which is very close to the Amersham and Chesham team. And I'd say 50% of my work is supporting people with the herbs, with their diet and lifestyle. And actually other 50% is to look at the emotional and the trauma that can manifest, because often it's not just looking at the body through a disease or a condition is also looking at what is the body expressing. So that's another really big part of my work, and I'll explain a little bit more in the next section on how I would support you with long-lasting changes. So let's dive in. We are going to go now into a bit more details about how each of us support you with our different modality. And we will give you today a freebie that you can start practicing straight away at home to support you. So just feel free to listen to this, and whichever one resonate with you, just take that home, and you can always listen to this again. We'll have a recording and you can go through them again. And if you have questions that you want to ask as you are hearing us, please type it in the chat box, and at the end we will try our best to answer all the questions. So Samreen.
I always forget to press that mute button. Thank you. That was a lovely intro, and I'm very excited about this conversation and this session because, well, it's timely, isn't it? January has just come to an end, and I certainly have had a few conversations with people that are reflecting on their motives at the turn of the year. And I, as I said this earlier in my introduction, I believe that change, when it feels unfamiliar, our nervous system pulls back, okay? And it pulls back from what it knows, it pulls back from what it feels might be a threat or something that might not feel new, might feel new to them, might feel very different, to things that are actually causing perhaps fatigue and tiredness, perhaps hurting us, and perhaps not serving us in ways that we're not even sure, cognitively able to express. Now, neuroscience has helped us to understand that our brain prioritizes predictability over improvement. And I have mentioned the word limbic earlier, and I know that Magalie is going to be speaking about this as well. Limbic friction is a concept that I came to learn a little bit more about over the last couple of years on a very personal level. And the more I witnessed that there was a tension between the part of myself or the part of some of my clients that wants to change and is curious about something new and different, and actually gets quite carried away with the vision of that, but the part of them that's wired to stay and to stay in their comfort, to stay in their sense of safety. And when we try to build new habits from stress, we inadvertently provoke our nervous system even more. And I think some of us might be familiar with terminology around those reactions, which are fight, flight, fawn, freeze. When we fight, we rebel against, we might set a goal and then we rebel against it in our own ways. We might actually, try to do something new, but we might actually then avoid it and feel like we fall back. We might fawn, which is we might think, oh, actually, I am actually doing it when nothing is really changing and when we're really honest with ourselves. Or we might just feel stuck. We might sort of start and we might get stuck. And I want to bring our attention to something. Our nervous system under pressure does not just resist change. It reshapes how we imagine change, right? It actually helps us to create narratives in a very, very clever way. And this is one of the reasons why us living in our minds a lot, which is how we've been trained to exist, can actually undermine our ability to get further in some of those aspirational changes. And goals are future focused. They are actually external. They're exogenous. They ask the mind of something that they need to achieve or want to achieve. Intentions, on the other hand, which I'd like to juxtapose to this, is state focused. It asks our body, an intention asks our body to feel and express a state that we want to be, to live and be in. And when change is driven by goals alone, we tend to build ceilings. We want to reach. We're constantly going for something, again, external to us. But when we work with intentions, we can actually ground ourselves onto the floor. So it's less about reaching and striving, and it's more about being. And on a very personal level, I have found this a huge journey over the last 10 to 15 years, where I've been a very, very overextended overachiever. And I've even now, even in this month of January, February, I'm finding myself getting caught up. Now, I want to also actually remind us of the root meaning of the word, or the word resolution, but actually the Latin root is resolutio. And it actually means to loosen, to dissolve. And somewhere along the way, resolutions have become about tightening control, setting this thing that we really need to strive for, that provokes our nervous system, you know. And actually, I am very, very excited to talk a little bit about the breath, because the breath is a very easy thing. We all have it. Well, most of us do. I am, to be inclusive, you know, not everybody can use their breath the same way, but most of us can. And most of us have the innate ability and the developed ability to actually increase our breath capacity. It's the fastest way to communicate with our limbic system. It's a bottom-up signal that essentially tells our body, it indicates just by the act of breathing that we are safe, and that we are also safe to choose differently. Now, if the mind is setting a goal, but the body isn't fulfilling that intention in its expression or belief, our breath can help create that bridge in very, very clever ways. You can't create a new habit from a dysregulated state. This leads us to repeat the old stuff. So today, I just wanted to introduce a very simple technique. You might be familiar with it. And I think a lot of these functional breathing techniques can be underestimated, and often, oh, I've tried that, okay, it doesn't. But actually, the more you practice these techniques and the more intentional you are with them, the more we can get ourselves into what I call that regulated state, that human brain, which is the brain that is not striving to feel safety and to survive, which is our reptilian brain. And it is not what I call the bunny brain, which is fuzzy and you can feel it, not actually trying to ensure that the limbic system is content or our emotional system is content. So we want to get into that regulated state. And so I'd encourage you to try this very, very simple technique. I'm going to do it with you, and I'll do it only a couple of rounds so that you can get just a short practice of it. And I would encourage you to maybe even do it daily for 5 minutes a day. It's not even 5 minutes, but you can. So it's called the 4-7-8 breath, okay? Just remember those 3 numbers. We're going to be breathing in for 4. We're going to be holding our breath for 7. And then we're going to release our breath and exhale for 8. Now, the really important process here that I'd really like to highlight is when you breathe out, you are actually releasing and letting go. You're not forcing the breath. You're not channeling the breath. You are letting this breath drop out of your body, okay? And just by focusing on that part of the technique, we enable ourselves to truly surrender and let go and regulate that system, get away from the FFFF, as I said, the fight, flight, fawn, and get into that regulated state where we feel safe and we feel that we can actually regulate. So let's try this just a couple of rounds, okay? And I would encourage you to do this normally 4 to 8 rounds. But today we're going to start with inhaling for 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold gently for 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Gently exhale through the nose for 8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, in through the nose for 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out through the mouth or nose for 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And just after those 2 rounds, check in with yourself. Has anything shifted, even so slightly? Just notice any difference. And I'd encourage you to do this exercise sat with your eyes closed if you feel safe and you're in a safe space, You could even do it when you're on the tube. If your feet are planted and you just soften your gaze and you're holding on, using those numbers to guide you. The breath is with us at all times, and we're not trying to force. We're trying to create the space to understand how the choices we make and the intentions that we express can actually come to life.
Thank you, Samreen. That was amazing. I actually did it and I felt relaxed. Sammy, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you. That was so good. I feel super chilled now. I could have just carried on doing that for the next 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to quickly share my screen. So yeah, I think I resonate so much with what's been said already. In the sort of nutrition and diet world and looking at sort of the physical health side of things, everybody is looking for a silver bullet or a quick fix that is going to, give them the results they want in a few days. And, health really isn't about trying to get to a goal. It's actually trying to live every day in a particular way that leads to overall health in your life. And this is the only thing that we can really do to lead to permanent change. So, as I said in my introduction, I focus very much on the holistic side of health. And I just wanted to kind of explain a little bit why quick fixes don't work when it comes to things like weight loss or trying to fix gut problems or balancing hormones, and how then we can try and stay there, and the thing that can potentially be sabotaging us. So I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So usually, people around the sort of January time, they will, quite often, go for a resolution, and it will be something like, I'm going to eat healthier, or I'm going to, lose X number of kilos, or I'm going to go to the gym X number of times. And these kind of resolutions end up with, like Samreen said, it's very sort of restrictive, and it actually kind of puts a lot of pressure on us to do it. And then we kind of sabotage ourselves because of the reasons that Samreen just explained. And not feeling safe, not feeling familiar, and we're out of our comfort zones. We're unable to kind of stick to these things. And eventually, we end up in the situation where we haven't done what we've promised ourselves, and that makes us feel like we failed. And then we end up in a loop of, I can never stick to anything. I'm no good at this stuff. So a few of the reasons that I've just listed here. So these are, these kind of resolutions generally are quite generic. So it means that they're not personalized. So, two people can have the same goal, but the pathway for them to get there can be completely different. And that's one of the problems with the way the diet industry is structured, is that it looks at, a blanket approach for everybody, like one size fits all. And that is never the case when it comes to health. Sustainable change does take time and effort. And this sort of quick fix idea, our society is very much kind of set up around instant gratification. We want it now. We don't want to put the time and the effort and the energy into it. But unfortunately, in order to create something really meaningful and important in our lives, we do have to put the work and the time into it. It doesn't have to be unpleasant work, it can be enjoyable. And actually, if we do that, it builds resilience and confidence. And this is one of the things that helps us to stick with our new pattern of whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. The more, like if you're starting to build a stronger body, for example, you start to feel more confident the more you do that. And that helps you to stick with the new behavior. Most quick fixes only tackle the symptom. So surface level, they're not really looking at the deeper underlying reason why there's a particular behavior there that might have been leading to you having a health issue or something like that. They often don't take into account the holistic view. So everything, in our sort of modern world is health is all about the physical body, but actually health is, emotional, it's mental, and it's also spiritual as well. And, we can tackle all of those different areas, and that is going to create overall health in somebody. Unfortunately, quick fixes don't teach you habits. They don't teach you how to embed meaningful habits into your life, which will then lead to a bigger change over time. The Ozempic or GLP-1 injections, for example, a lot of people I've spoken to who are taking them, they've lost a lot of weight and they're feeling good about that. However, they're really feeling anxious about coming off it because they're so reliant on the medication. They haven't embedded any new habits to actually sustain the weight loss for the future. And so kind of overlapping those things is really important. And then the final thing there is that they generally only focus on one outcome. So it's very much focused on something really narrow, like I want to lose X number of kilos, or I want to, weigh a certain amount usually. And, this can actually not be helpful because, like I said at the beginning, health is this holistic thing that we need to look at all elements of. And the iceberg analogy, I'm sure this is something that you've all seen, and we can apply this to lots of different things. But as I was sort of developing my programs that I help people with, I think that this is a really nice way to show how a health symptom can be on the surface. So, I work a lot with people who have gut problems, for example. And usually, the reason that there's that symptom there is that there's a much deeper underlying reason. And usually our behavior around food can lead to a particular gut problem or behavior in some other area of our lives, whether it's, relying on food to manage emotions or regulate stress. And that is also driven by our emotional state. So, going back to that kind of fight or flight response, if we're living in that nervous system situation all the time, then our emotional state is not going to be balanced. And the deeper level of that is also conditioning as well. So, this is something that happens to us generally when we are between the ages of when we're born and about 7. Our brains are being conditioned with behaviors and things like that. So, and I just wanted to share this quote with you from an amazing book. If you haven't read it, I really would suggest that you read it. It's called The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's amazing. And he really brings together the science and the spirituality, which I love as well. And, 95% of our choices and behaviors are being driven by conditioning. So they are actually unconscious. So that is a lot of our lives, so bringing some of those unconscious behaviors to the conscious mind can really help to make change. And then the final thing is just my little activity for you. So this is called the power of 2%. And this is just making really, really tiny changes on a daily basis. Because when we sort of look at this huge change, it can feel really overwhelming. And so just something really small. So I want you to think of any tiny thing you could do to help yourself on your health journey. So for example, something like mindful eating. So you sit and you eat your food without distractions, or just drinking more water. It can be something as simple as that. And then taking that tiny action and anchoring it to something else that you already do every day. For example, eating your breakfast, brushing your teeth. So if you want to start drinking more water, you can say to yourself, every morning after I brush my teeth, I'm going to drink a glass of water. And you sort of anchor those two things together, and that then becomes your new ritual. And if you keep doing that every day over a period of time, that's a 2% change. Then over a week, a month, and a year, you're going to make a much bigger change. So that's my little activity for you. And I also have a free gift as well, which is a meditation. And this is a really powerful visualization meditation for you. So you can scan the QR code and access that. And that's going to just help you to create a visualization of what health actually means to you. What do you want to manifest into your life this year? So I hope that's useful for you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sammy. Wow, loads of good stuff in there. Brilliant. Almost have to listen to the recording myself to re-go through it. Carolina, are you good to go?
Yes, very interesting. Like everybody has been sharing. So when I work with parents, one of the things that they tend to say is that they don't have time. They don't have time, they're overwhelmed. So when they come, it's December and they decide that now we're going to do, I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to start eating healthy. It's such a big thing. And they think it's just like, oh, okay, it's that easy. And what happened is by the end of January, they haven't gone to the gym more than 2 times, or they probably have read the book. They want to restart reading books and they suddenly just read 2 pages. And they want to have that self-care, that time for themselves, because it's important as a parent to have that time to just reconnect with yourself. But what happens, the day-to-day comes, and then you probably stop doing those habits as well. So what I would like to talk about today is this framework called WOOP, WOOP. And in this framework was created by the psychologist Gabrielle Ottingham. And I will tell you, each letter stands for, so W stands for wish, O for outcome, the other O for obstacles, and the P for plan. So I'm going to explain you this framework through a habit. Let's say that you want to start this new habit. Doesn't matter if you're a mom or dad. It works for anyone. So let's say that you want to start reading before bed. So W stands for wish. So this new habit, I would suggest that is small, very small and very specific. So let's say that you want to start reading just before bed, 10 minutes instead of scrolling your phone. So it's very small, 10 minutes is a specific time. Then the second letter is out for outcome. So here I will invite you to visualize what you really want to feel if you practice this new habit every day. So if you practice this reading before bed, you might start feeling calmer before you close your eyes and go to sleep. You might feel like disconnected from your day-to-day problems. So what do you really want to feel when you've been doing this habit more than 3 weeks in advance? So the idea with this is to connect with your why. And when you set this new habit, I will encourage you to ask yourself why this matters right now, why you really want to start achieving this new habit. And when you have your answer, I will ask you again, I will invite you to ask yourself again, why? And you might be surprised what you will hear. And I will encourage you to ask yourself again, why? Why is important to you to feel this calm before going to bed? Why is important to you read books? So you start finding connecting with that motivation when you're setting up this new habit, obviously on top of what Samreen and Sammy have said as well. The third letter O for obstacle, is an interesting one, because sometimes when we set these new habits, we just think of what we want to achieve, but we don't think about what obstacles we might come across when we are setting new habits. So let's say that yes, you want to start reading your book before bed, but what happens is that you get to bed and suddenly you grab your phone and start scrolling more than 5 minutes and ends up to be 45 minutes. So that night you didn't read your book. When you start really understanding what is behind the reason why you're not sticking to this habit, you start understanding a bit more your internal obstacles, what is causing this. And I know I just got a few minutes to really explain this. So my invitation is connect with what is causing you that, for example, you decide to start reading your book every night, but then on the third day you stop. So connect with that part of you that might be telling you something. And then I invite you to move to the letter P, which is plan. So let's say that you haven't been reading your book because you are in this pattern of looking at your phone at night. So I will say, could you create a plan like, if I go to bed, I turn my phone off before going upstairs. Or if I go to bed, I plug my phone downstairs. So you are starting to work on what is the obstacle. For example, if it's just looking at your phone when you go to bed, you can have that obstacle taken away, and you can focus on go to bed, my book is ready on bed, I'll just read my book. And that is a framework that will start helping you. You're going to start using it straight away. You can start working on these new habits that you want to implement. It takes 21 days to form a habit, and but 90 days to actually become permanent. So just look at what you're doing, go through this framework. I invite you to use it often because it helps you to understand what's going on, to reflect on your new habit. And yes, this is something that if you want to work on it, I'm always available.
Thank you so much, Carolina. I'm really loving this because we haven't really planned all together what we're doing, but it's so complementary, each of the things. So it's almost like a perfect continuation of what Sammy was bringing up. So I'm really loving that. Okay, so yes, I'm a medical herbalist and I wish I had a magic herb to give you so you could stick to your resolutions. Unfortunately, I don't. I'm afraid we need to look somewhere else. But with obviously with the medical herbalist aspect is something that comes my path a lot. So, looking at patients' lifestyle, diet, and just simply taking the tincture every day and supporting them through those changes. And it's not easy. It's not always easy. So one of the thing for me that I really go into to understand, the lasting change is that we must look beyond the willpower. And our journey is basically shaped by the very biology of our earliest life experiences. So I work with the tri-brain model, which is going to recoup a little bit of what Samreen says and actually most likely complement it to a good degree. So it's going to be really nice thread here. So the idea is that we function from 3 interconnected centers. We have the reptilian brain, the limbic brain, and the cortex. The reptilian brain is the body. It's your basic needs. It's the survival core. It manages the health, it manages thirst, hunger, sexuality, safety, and it's all about automatic function. Then the limbic brain is the heart, the emotion. It is our emotional and relational core. So that governs what we've drawn to. So our passion, our choices for our partner, for the job, for friends, for hobbies. It's basically the seat of deep feeling and memory. And then we have the cortex, which is the head, the executive. It's our thinking, our planning, our rationalizing core. It makes decisions, it coordinates actions, it communicates. So for sustainable changes, these 3 brains absolutely must be in alignment. And often they're not for most of us. And this misalignment frequently stems from what we call the limbic imprint. So what is the limbic imprint? So that's a really profound concept. Trauma from our earliest experiences, the way we were conceived, the way we were carried in our mother's womb, the way we were birthed, and all the early years as a child can leave a very long-lasting imprint in our limbic system. And at that moment of overwhelm, we don't have, we don't have the right defense in place. So we will have this protective mechanism of defense, a little bit what Samreen mentioned earlier, the fight, flight, thought pattern. And so that pattern formed so early can become a lifelong loop. It can shape our life, the way we live, the way we love, the way we work, and the way we make decisions for ourselves, all the way into adulthood. So it's a little bit like the hidden script running in the background. Okay, so let's just see now how this 3 brain being misaligned can sabotage a common goal, like a New Year resolution. So for instance, getting fit and healthy, which is quite a common one. So firstly, if you look at the limbic misalignment, so you're going to declare, I am going to run 5 kilometers every morning, and your cortex has planned for it, but your limbic brain, which craves comfort and warmth and perhaps hates the cold, will feel very much repelled by this resolution. So you might last a week, but the deep emotional aversion means that you will stop, and the goal will not spark joy or passion. So it will feel like a punishment. Another example from the reptilian misalignment. So you choose a punishing new diet, an extreme workout regime. So your cortex is committed and your limbic is actually excited by the idea of the results, but your reptilian brain, responsible for the basic energy and the health, gets overwhelmed, depleted, and stressed. So you might push through and then your body crashes. You get sick, you get injured or exhausted, forcing you to stop. And the goal violated your body's fundamental needs. And then as a third example, you've got the cortex misalignment. So you feel a deep limbic pull towards the joy of dancing, for instance, or maybe hiking in nature. And your body is ready, but your cortex, the planner, fails to coordinate. And you don't book the class, or you don't schedule the time, or you get caught into analysis paralysis, researching the best gear and never going ahead with anything. Does that sound familiar? So the intention is there, but the executive function to make it happen never works. So true lasting change happens only when a goal resonates with your body capacity, the reptilian. When it sparks genuine joy or passion in your limbic, and when it is supported by a realistic plan with your cortex. Okay, so this is where my deep work comes in. So I offer sessions that are through Birth into Being workshop, which is essentially an amazing method that helps you release those early year trauma that we talked about. And I help individuals rebalance these three brains and recode the limbic imprint. And this is actually one of the first processes we do in the method. It's a very, very profound work, and it can actually really help people break free from those lifelong patterns and find true alignment. It actually recodes the limbic imprint, and then the body, just the cell memory, will change, after the workshop. So it's very deep, very intense, but it's a lifelong change. But for today, because this is won't be done in the next 2 minutes, I'm just going to give you just a little invitation for you to kind of check in. So you probably already have set up a resolution, and the invitation would be to check in with your own pattern. What is your own pattern in life? And just going back to the past, is the tendency self-sabotage, perfectionist that leads you to burnout, possibly addiction? And by that I can mean, it's not necessarily substance addiction. It could be anything from work or shopping or, So just notice that, just checking in a little bit. What's your pattern, and notice it with compassion, no judgment. And then start with a resolution that brings you genuine joy, something that's really gentle, a little bit that what we all discuss here, a little step, something that's achievable and something that you like. And ask yourself the most important question. Is this resolution what I truly need right now? Just really checking in. And just listen for the answer that comes, not just from the head, but from your heart and your body. Almost like a check-in with the three brains, the reptilian, the cortex, the limbic. And yeah, that is how you begin to build a floor, not a ceiling. And of course, if you want to explore more, then you're very welcome to come to one of those beautiful Birth into Being workshop. Okay, so I don't think we will have time for Q&As, unfortunately, but please, if you have anything that comes to mind, you can message us. Our contacts will be in the link with the recording, so feel free to message us anytime. We'll be very happy to deep dive. And yeah, so we've just scratched the surface of building a truly sustainable foundation. So we had Samreen with the 478 breath work. That was amazing. Yeah, we had Samantha with you recommended a beautiful book, and the power of the 2% with a bit of ritual and just a little step at a time. And then we had Carolina with a parenting coach and the WHOOP framework, wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan. I actually took notes of all of that. And I think they are, yeah, very complementary. And then lastly, you had this check-in with the three brain and the patterns, that you you might want to introspect. So choose maybe one or two of these practices and, just start slowly and steady. And this is your new floor, a foundation built on support, not restriction. And really, the most important, on kindness, not force. And if this resonated with you and you're thinking, I want to go a little bit deeper with this holistic support, when you can reach out to us anytime. At the bottom of the recording, I will put the links of all of our profiles so you can find us. You can also find more of our amazing Seed Wellness therapists on seedwellness.co.uk. And you can follow us on Instagram as well, at Seed Wellness UK. And if you're local to Amersham, Chesham and Berkhamsted, we are on Facebook and we regularly post events or other webinars. And you can find us on Seed Wellness Berkhamsted, Amersham and Chesham. That's for Facebook. So from all of us today, a big thank you for listening to us. And remember, true change isn't about breaking yourself down. It's all about building a solid, compassionate floor beneath your feet so you can rise steadily and sustainably. Have a wonderful day.